Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. And today we're going to be continuing our lecture on self and the video game itself. And so looking at this relationship between how people play video games and why people play video games and how that helps inform who they perceive themselves to be, how self-esteem is factored in as well, thinking about personalities and also thinking about kind of the gratifications that people get from video games. We're also going to be looking at status quo effect, and we're going to be looking at a few other interesting consumer behavior effects that can help explain how and why we play video games in the manner that we all do. Let's get started. Type of video game players. So last lecture, I was talking about different gratifications that we get from video gameplay. Competition, diversion, team identification if you're part of a collective, fantasy. There are a lot of different reasons why we play video games. Consumers who are less emotionally stable are more likely to experience immersion. And so video games are very immersive, especially if the controllers allow a player to play within a 360-degree world. And the world is stable, and the world allows for good transportation into another virtual world. And so those who may be less emotionally stable may be looking for some sort of diversion, may be looking for an opportunity to repair their emotions. And so this can be done through this particular area. Additionally, players who experience greater immersion in video games are likely to display aggression. This is another issue with video gameplay. Sometimes, if we're so immersed in video games, we feel freer and we may be inclined to display aggression. Now, video games are not linked to violent behavior. What video games are linked to is short-term aggression. Short-term aggression. So yes, after playing 3 hours of Mortal Kombat, you might be hyped. You might feel electricity or impulses pulsating through your veins and arteries and fingertips. Yeah, you might feel those things. That doesn't mean 2 weeks later you will shoot up a school or a bus or commit some sort of mass murder or even one murder for that matter. We don't have any evidence on that as a correlation or as causation for that matter. According to Schumann, motivations create 4 types of players: overall convinced, convinced competitor, the escapist, and the pastime gamer. And so if we look at these, we have the overall convinced player, the person who wants to play the video game and believes that he or she will have a positive experience. We have the convinced competitor, somebody who is seeking competition from video gameplay. The escapist, somebody who is looking to escape the world around them and to be transported elsewhere. And we also have the pastime gamer. So we're just looking to pass the time, pick up a controller, kill an hour or two, and then move on to the next activity. Consumers who are extroverts are attracted to video games with exciting brand personalities. And this gets back to what we were talking about earlier with consumers and with different personalities that might suggest or serve as harbingers or predictors of what kinds of video games people like to play. Let's keep going. Types of video game players continued. In one study, the gamer strength identity, the degree to which consumers aligned gaming with their social identity, was hardest for hardcore gamers and less so for casual gamers. This is another paradigm to consider when we're thinking about how people play video games. Hardcore gamers have a different perception of the video game experience, more so than casual gamers. Hardcore gamers might align themselves more fully to the video game experience than casual gamers, who may be less interested in using video gameplay to fortify or manipulate or change or inform their own personalities. GIS was positively related with needs for competency, autonomy, and relatedness. Competency, autonomy, and relatedness. That goes back to self-determination theory, which is exactly what that is. And so hardcore video game players really need to identify with video games. So much so, they need to be competent in the video games they play, autonomous in the selection of the video games they play, and share this with others, aligning themselves with different video games that may say something about themselves. If you play Cooking Mama, if you play Overcooked, if you play Cuphead, if you play Super Meat Boy, if you play Super Mario Brothers, if you play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you play any of these games, what does it say about you? If you play these games a lot, does it say anything about you? What about less so? Hardcore gamers were found to be interested in increasing their levels of persistent playing, while the other two categories, casual and heavy, were interested in enjoyment and being connected with others. And so, hardcore gamers and casual gamers have different motivations. For hardcore gamers, they're interested in increasing their levels of persistent playing. Other two categories, casual and heavy, were interested in enjoyment and being connected with others. Casual and mid-core, which really is what heavy is here, mid-core. Casual and mid-core, or mid-level video game players, were more interested in enjoyment, connecting with others, having a good time. That's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Let's keep going. Type of video game players and consumers. So a study by Ip and Jacobs, 2004, attempted to segment the computer and video game market. Age was found to not be an indicator of level of gaming. Hardcore and casual gamers were found in both age groups. And it should be pointed out, as we speak right now, the average age of a video game player is 33 years old. And so that does make sense, because you will find that there are multiple age categories that have grown up playing video games and continue to do so. To study segmented markets, we should instead focus on the following player attributes: gaming attitudes and knowledge, playing habits, and buying habits as well. These are ways in which we can create profiles and get to understand who's actually playing video games. Let's keep going. Online personas. So let's take a look at vloggers and online personalities. We manage ourselves as individuals and in-group dynamics during video gameplay. Why do some people act as they do? Now, based on these links, which I implore you to look up Ninja, PewDiePie, Markiplier, and VRChat, when we think about why people can act like this and can behave in such extreme manners, video gameplay is freeing. Video gameplay allows us to do a lot of things that we would not do in society. Why is that the case? How is it that I can go and say whatever I wish on VRChat? With VRChat, I control an avatar. It's not me, my identity is hidden. For many of these video games, identities being hidden, changed, manipulated, unverifiable, allow gamers to shed who they are in society and to probably embrace their id more than anything else, to really embrace their primal urges, how they want to behave unfettered and without consequence. And so we see these extreme personalities all the time. 1, to grab attention, 2, to be free, and 3, to escape who they are as people in a virtual world. What does it mean for these gamers? It Many of them, I am sure, are normal in society. I suspect many of them do not commit crimes. I suspect many of them are good, upstanding citizens. But video games afford us the opportunity to be in a digital jungle in which we can behave and act like animals that are typically found in the jungle. Let's keep going. Video game avatars and players. So video game avatars, if we play them too much, if we really embark in spending 30 or 50 hours in World of Warcraft or The Sims or Second Life, as we invest more in our avatars, we invest less in reality. We invest less in socializing with the outside world. We don't succumb to social pressures. We don't really care what our social standing is. Our identity with others and ability to choose our appearances in gameplay is remarkable. We can only change our identity so much without going through some sort of extreme procedure in reality. And so we're able to connect with other people who look like us, who act like us, who behave like us in reality. But in gaming we can be whoever we want to be. We can make changes to who we are. We can rewrite our history. We can rewrite how we perceive ourselves. We can write out our flaws. We can write in new flaws. We can make ourselves perfect and live in a world without consequences, live in a world without risks. But when we do this, we create a world in which we're not really living in. Bereft of failure, bereft of problems. We need problems. We need failure in life. All of us should be failing. All of us should have problems. This makes life worth living. And so overindulgence in video gameplay can be very dangerous. With games like The Sims and Second Life, at first blush, these games are fun. And by and large, they're good games to play. But if we become too immersed in these games, if we become too ensconced within the game itself, we risk overvaluing our own virtual identities against the backdrop of our actual ones in reality. Let's keep going. So how does this come about? How do we have this connection here between ourselves and between avatars? We have an interest in linking with machines. Humans have always had this interest in enhancing abilities or extending oneself to other machinery or equipment or enhancing abilities or senses. 3D graphics erase boundaries between player and video game. We know this. Here we kind of have a two-dimensional world, but we know with any latest and greatest Super Mario, it's a 3D world. It's a world in which we have a very immersive world that has depth, that has different kinds of color that we find in reality. The fictional shooting hand in a first-person shooter creates a continuum between the player's world and that of the game. If it's a first-person shooter, and I can't see myself, this allows me to map myself onto the avatar. It allows myself to map myself onto the avatar. If, however, I'm walking around with a gun in a video game, and I can see who I am that cowboy, I am the astronaut, I am the soldier, well, then there's a bit more distance, because I know I'm not that person. I'm kind of hovering over that avatar. It doesn't feel like it's me. This kind of continuum is very, very powerful when we begin to think about how we connect to certain video games. That first view that we have sets the tone for how much ownership and responsibility we are to take in the game. Let's keep going. Consumer embodiment with avatar during video gameplay occurs. Playing games is a human activity, and so we're familiar with this. We're familiar with playing video games, and we're familiar with playing games as it is. And there is this continuous loop between gamer input and game input. So the gamer will put in different moves or strategies or actions or different cosmetic looks for the avatar. The game will respond with different challenges, different missions, different modes of communication. And so this constant feedback loop that's going on is reminiscent of reality, right? If we stub our toe, if we lose a job, if we get fired from a job, if we buy a car, if we break up with a girlfriend, if we get an A on a test, if any of these things happen to us, we're being told information from our own reality, aren't we? And so that same feedback loop that we rely on in reality is implicit and really explicit in video gameplay. It's meant to mimic reality, in which we expect consequences with all of our actions, good or bad. We expect consequences. Let's keep going. Body image distortion. We alluded to this earlier in the last lecture, but body image distortion occurs quite frequently during video gameplay. We may see bodies mutilated and decapitated during video gameplay. If we're playing against aliens or zombies, that's probably par for the course, right? Something that we're all familiar with. Body image distortion, though, occurs all the time in reality, right? We see ourselves going under the knife for cosmetic surgery. A bigger this, a smaller that, whatever it may be. And so this kind of body decoration that we go through in reality places us in certain categories and certain groups. Women who get plastic surgery, men who get plastic surgery, can relate to others who get plastic surgery. It places us in different social categories when we go through this. Your friend who got that huge back tattoo may start talking to other people with back tattoos. Additionally, when we go under cosmetic surgery, we also align ourselves with different kinds of sexes. If we enhance our image, we might hang out with more good-looking people. If we enhance other things about us, we might gravitate toward people who have similar images. Let's keep going. If we think about the proportions, though, a busty volleyball player or an oversized karate avatar. Do any of these characters need the proportions to complete the tasks that are required of them? Overwhelmingly, the answer is no. We do not need somebody who has arms bigger than his head to be an avatar. We don't need a curvaceous or busty woman to play volleyball, or to fight, or to conquer an enemy. But this happens all the time anyway, because these proportions are meant to be aesthetically pleasing and visually stimulating. They have less to do with actually accomplishing things in video games, and unfortunately more to do with kind of our own gazes. So our own perceptions of what a male should look like or what a female should look like in that case. Let's keep going. Shifting away from body image, we also have tribes, and we also have communities, and we also have rites of passage. Who here belongs to a Madden tribe, Call of Duty tribe, Fortnite tribe, Clash of Clans tribe, League of Legends tribe, World of Warcraft tribe, NBA 2K tribe? We all belong to tribes, don't we, in life? Some of you, maybe not for gaming, but some of you may belong to Starbucks tribe or Florida Gator tribe, which I belong to. All of us belong to certain tribes. We affiliate ourselves with certain communities. In order to be part of a tribe, there are a few things that we do. We may have rites of passage. We have rituals we perform to mark a change in social status. We might gain badges or awards to demarcate our success in Left Behind, another good zombie video game. Or Left 4 Dead. And so rites of passage mean that we go through badges and awards and accoutrements in order to demarcate progress. We are always measuring ourselves as a people. It follows that we have all of those non-diegetic elements that we were talking about in the first week of class, or the second week, in which we talked about points and scoreboards and other things that, while they help us understand our progress and ranking, aren't necessarily directly relevant or germane to video gameplay. Separation. So one may separate, he may detach, she may detach from his or her original group or status and leave home for university, for another tribe, for a job, for whatever it may be. There's a certain level of liminality that also goes on here, the middle stage, where somebody may be in limbo between statuses. Are you between jobs? Between universities? Are you between tribes? And then we have aggregation, the return back to society with a new status intact. So maybe you went off and practiced Madden football, or practiced Cooking Mama, or practiced Candy Crush, or practiced some sort of game, and you've returned back. Prodigal son, the prodigal daughter. And you're a better marksman. You're a better markswoman. You shoot better. You play better. Whatever it may be. And so throughout this process is growth and failure and growth and failure. This is the way in which we rise up in ranking and in profile in a community. Let's keep going. Myths. Myths are also crucial and absolutely relevant to the way in which we perceive ourselves. People like to be the hero. People like to be the hero because it allows us to do something magnificent, grandiose, otherworldly. Being the hero allows us to embrace doing something mighty. We don't get that opportunity every day. Many of us work in jobs that, are normal. We'll have good days, we'll have bad days. The myths that we rely on to tell these stories in video gameplay are stories that are indicative of cultural ideals. We idealize men who go after women who are in trouble. We idealize men who are brave. We idealize men who are individuals. We idealize men who have their own set of values. This is slowly but surely seeping into females as well. Females are now being heralded as heroes, challenging the status quo, saving men even. And so all of these values are propagated all the time in video gameplay. Whether we look at Mario and Super Mario, Link in Zelda, or Kingdom Hearts, or Final Fantasy VII for that matter. We may look at Sora from Kingdom Hearts. All of these gentlemen have weapons. All of these gentlemen, for the most part, work on their own. And again, with a reimagined Lara Croft, with Wonder Woman saving her love interest, we're also seeing this among female heroes now. But why do we replay these stories? We know what the deal is. We've known what the deal is since King Kong, and even before then. A monster comes, steals a princess or a beautiful woman. The man will go and save the woman, kill the monster. We know what the outcome is already. So why do we watch? Despite these stories that we're so used to, and maybe even sick of, we don't watch to see what will happen. We watch to see how it will happen, how it will unfold, how the princess will be saved this time, how the kingdom will be saved this time. That's where the magic is. The ability to tell a story in some sort of strict molding, but to do it differently, to tell it differently, even if it does have a similar outcome. Let's keep going. As we were saying earlier with rituals, symbolic behaviors that are repeated consistently, we know that rituals create community. We know that rituals based around myths help create camaraderie with others. We gain purpose and we gain group affiliation as well. This is clear in sports video games, particularly in Madden. We know the myths and the tropes. Another myth in sports is the rookie who was undrafted who becomes a superstar. Or maybe dreaming of being that first pick in an NFL draft and leading your team to a Super Bowl victory one day. Or the team that nobody thought would win it all and wound up winning it all. We see these stories on and on and on all the time in sports. And this helps inform rituals, because we always believe that on any given Sunday, any given Tuesday night, any given Wednesday night, there's hope. There's hope that your team will beat another team. No matter how treacherous, no matter the enormity of the situation, your team can rise up and knock off a Titan. This drives sports video gameplay to incredible levels. As you can see with sports video gameplay, with rituals, with myths, with stories, and understanding why hardcore gamers play video games versus casual gamers, we all have our reasons. We all have our reasons for connecting. Some of us may want to see ourselves as a different avatar. Some of us may want to embark on rituals to be part of a group. And some of us may want to challenge our very perception of ourselves through video gameplay. Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.